Along with the release of StarCraft Wings of Liberty patch 1.3.0 on the PTR, which I will be covering extensively in my next Pulse episode, there were a few changes made to the ladder map pool. Let's have a look at those. These semi-stealth changes removed quite a number of maps from the ladder pool, but there were also quite a few fun-looking additions. It is worth noting that the old ladder maps that were removed can still be played via custom games. The maps are there, just not in the ladder map pool. Blizzard also says that they do plan to add a couple new maps to the official ladder rotation in the coming weeks, including a user-made 1v1 map that is currently being featured in the global StarCraft League. I am rather curious to see which of the GSL maps they are thinking of adding, but I guess any of them would be a great asset. Rather than leave us guessing why certain maps were removed, Blizzard posted a detailed listing of the changes with included commentary on each decision. This can all be found below, courtesy of Shaq News. So firstly, let's have a look at a quick summary of the changes. 1v1 maps that are carrying over are Scrap Station, Xel'Naga Caverns, Delta Quadrant, and Metalopolis. The removed 1v1 maps are Blistering Sands, Jungle Basin, Steps of War, Lost Temple, and Shakarez Plateau. The new 1v1 maps that were added are Backwater Gulch, Slag Pits, the Shattered Temple, and Hyphen Peaks. 2v2 maps that are carrying over are High Orbit, Monolith Ridge, Redstone Gulch, Scorched Haven, and Tempest. 2v2 maps that were removed are Arid Wastes, Tarsonis Assault, Twilight Fortress, and Warzone. The newly added 2v2 maps are Gutter Hulk, Doran Depths, Omega Sector, and Runes of Tarsonis. That may suffice for many of you, but those that want the reasoning behind the additions and removals, you should probably keep listening. I'm only going to be talking about the 1v1 and 2v2 changes because I think that's what the general populace cares about most. So you can read the post link below for more details about the 4v4 and free-for-all changes too. So I'm going to read you the detailed quotes about the 1v1 maps that were removed. For Blistering Sands, they say, "We wanted to reduce the number of rush maps in general, and Blistering Sands was one of them. On top of that, Blistering Sands matches resulted in too many all-in games due to the rocks into the main base. The frequency of all-in roach speedling, 4 warp gate push, or even mass marine marauder stimpack push by breaking the rocks was a bit high, so we decided to pull this map from the ladder." Jungle Basin. Jungle Basin has a few traits that makes it extremely favorable for Terrans, so we decided to remove it from the ladder. These include the fact that it's possible to set up siege tanks right below the main base of your opponent and harass his natural expansion while preventing his forces from leaving his base. Too many choke points everywhere on the map made it difficult for Zerg to deal with marines and marauders or siege tank based skirmishes. Difficult to access second expansion. They also say that the high ground covering both the main and the natural expansion made it too easy for Terrans to defend using siege tanks. Steps of War. They say that, again, we wanted to reduce the number of rush maps, and Steps was the most rush-friendly rush map we decided to cut. It's not that we don't like rush maps, but we have learnt over the course of Season 1 that 2-player rush maps are generally more one-sided than 4-player rush maps. For the ladder map changes, the rush possible maps we'll have will be 4-player maps only. Lost Temple. The problems of Lost Temple. If one side controls one of the center watchtowers, there's no alternate ground-based route to half of the map, meaning it's too easy for the game to become a stalemate with each side taking half the map. Small islands in the corners were problematic in that they were too difficult to assault with each of the 3 races. We noticed it's possible to hold out at one or both of these islands and drag on a game longer than needed. It was also problematic in that in some of these matchups, these islands were just free expansions that never got attacked, which is not what we wanted in an expansion. The choke point by the natural expansions were too small. It was possible to block them off easily using only a few buildings. Shakarez Plateau. This map we decided to remove for a different reason. There isn't a huge problem with this map, but we felt that there aren't enough interesting features on the map. The natural expansion is too easy to take and defend, there are only 2 possible attack paths, only one of which is generally used, and main bases aren't easy to harass at all. For a change, we wanted to replace this relatively plain map with something new. So that's it for the removed maps. Let's have a look at the new ones that were added. Backwater Gulch. Backwater Gulch has a familiar main to first expansion layout. Early gameplay on this map should feel familiar, and there probably aren't too many early game threats or difficulties in terms of gimmicky strategies you need to worry about. The second expansion, however, features a high ground area that is accessible by 2 ramps, meaning it can be easily harassed. The center area has 2 watchtowers as well as 2 high yield expansions that will be difficult to maintain, and the key to victory in some games could be down to how long you could hold one or both of these center expansions. Slag Pits. Metalopolis was one of the 2 favorite maps across the different skill levels of players. We decided to introduce a very similar map, but slightly more macro heavy. We took out Shakarez Plateau, which was a very plain macro map, and added this map instead. Some of the key features of this map are 2 low ground high yield expansions, the 2 lines of shrub area that can be used to position units, as well as the low ground watchtower that watches over all of the low ground center. The Shattered Temple. The Shattered Temple is a newer version of Lost Temple that's more balanced. Improvements to Lost Temple found on this map include a wider center area, watchtower changed to cover only part of the center of the map. It's possible to sneak units around the corners of the central area without getting detected by the watchtower. Rocked off islands. This creates an alternative attack route and reduces stalemate situations that islands cause. And lastly, larger choke points by the natural expansions that make it a lot more difficult to block off. And the last of the 1v1 maps, Hyphen Peaks. This map has a lot of fun traits of previous maps. Rocks on the sides of the map are positioned similarly to those on Scrap Station to reduce rush distance in vertical start locations. The center has 2 watchtowers and provides the main attack path like in Shakarez Plateau, and the second expansion is similar to the setup of Xel'Naga Caverns. Even though this map is brand new, players will be able to utilize some of the existing strategies that have been used on other maps and potentially combine them to fit the unique playstyle of this new map. Phew, that's the 1v1 maps out of the way. As I said before, no word yet on which GSL map Blizzard were thinking of using, but hey, a little mystery is always fun. So let's check the 2v2 changes out. Once again, remember, if you want to see the full images or read the full descriptions in text form, you can check the entire post out below, courtesy of Shaq News. Let's have a look at the 2v2 maps that were removed. Arid Wastes. Team play maps where your base is too far from your ally tend to favor race compositions that have mobile armies. This is the reason why we would avoid having maps like Arid Wastes in the team play ladder in the future. Tarsonis Assault. This map has a similar feel to that of Scorched Haven or Monolith Ridge. The main difference is that the distance to future expansions is very far. We wanted to remove one of these 3 maps since they're very similar in style, and Tarsonis Assault was the worst out of the 3. Twilight Fortress. This is an extremely macro heavy map we wanted to try. The gameplay on this map is very different, and the average length of the games on this map was too long, so it is being taken out of ladder play. Warzone. Warzone suffers from similar problems as Arid Wastes. It's near impossible for certain team setups to help each other, and in team games, we want to have maps that are more team play based. Now onto the new 2v2 maps that were added. Gutter Hulk. Like Scorched Haven or Monolith Ridge, this map has a center area between the 2 allies where each player can safely expand. However, the main difference is that there are rocks blocking off the back of each of the main bases, meaning harassing either player's main base is possible. In terms of main attack routes, there are 5 different attack paths to your opponents, meaning that control of the 2 watchtowers is key to success on this map. Doran Depths. This map was first showcased during BlizzCon 2009, even before the retail game launched. This map features an easily defendable high yield expansion in between you and your ally. However, this expansion is blocked off by destructible rocks, meaning you have to choose when to break this rock versus when to attack or defend versus the opposing team. Controlling the center of the map gains you access to most of the center of the map, but there are still backdoor routes around to the opponent's bases by breaking one set of destructible rocks. Omega Sector. Omega Sector is a 2-player version of the popular 3v3 map Arakan Citadel. The start locations are very similar on both maps, and side expansion areas are a bit more easily accessible by the opposing players. This map has a possible of 3 paths of attack, and although the center is the fastest route, the other routes will be used very frequently because there are no watchtowers overlooking them. As with Arakan Citadel, your ally is slightly far away from your base, so consider this when placing your first production structures. And lastly, Runes of Tarsonis. Runes of Tarsonis is a more balanced version of the Warzone map, which has been removed from the ladder map pool. The biggest downside of Warzone was that it was near impossible to assist your ally if you didn't have a mobile army. However, with the shared choke points on this map, it's now possible to play as any race combination without obvious disadvantages. In the mid-late game, however, there are backdoor paths leading to your second expansion areas, so be sure to defend these locations as well. Well, I can totally understand why some of these maps were removed or changed, because as an avid 2v2 player myself, I can tell you that I did have quite a few problems on quite a few of the maps. But hey, I can't wait to get in there and try these new ones. I don't really see the need to cover the 4v4 or FFA map changes, additions or removals, so if you feel you need to know what happened there, check the post link below, it's all in there. Remember, as I mentioned at the start, you can also find the patch 1.3.0 PTR notes linked below. Those are pretty interesting too, and I will talk about them in the next Pulse episode. As usual, thanks for watching the video, liking it, favoriting it, sharing it, and subscribing. But most importantly, happy StarCrafting.